Welcome back. In session 9, we're going to recap everything that we talked about, and we're going to figure out how you're going to be able to apply what you've learned here to the leads that you might be writing upcoming, and how to decide which lead to use when, and then how to execute that lead once you've made that decision. So first thing we talked about was this idea of the power of one, and this is a critical idea that you do not want to miss. You want to make sure that whenever you come up with your message, your promotional message, that whatever it is, whatever type of lead it is, whatever the message is that you want to get across, try to keep it unencumbered by anything that doesn't need to be there. You need to focus on one clear message that you telegraph across to everybody else. And it's worth it to spend as much time as you can in the beginning making sure that you've got that right. So I would say if you're thinking about a promotion and you're dividing up the amount of time that you need to focus on what you're going to do in that promotion, you might think that most of the work is the time that you spend writing. But I think that what you should consider is you're going to spend maybe 40 and even 50% of that time making sure you've done the research so that you've got the absolute right message, targeting the right emotions, targeting the right thing that you want to have happen, and to the audience in a way that's relevant to what they care about. You also want to keep in mind what is the awareness level of the people that you are writing to. That is, how much do they know about you? How much do they know about the products that you offer or the solutions that are out there? Do they know a lot about the competition? Is there something that you have to make sure you make yourself stand out against what those other people offer? Are they aware of the problems that they have that they might be trying to solve? Or are they totally out there on a fringe where they haven't really worked all that stuff out for themselves, and you're going to have to do some of the work of working that for them? So that moves along that awareness scale. And then remember that cocktail party example where we talked about directness versus indirect. The people who are more aware, you can just come right out and be direct to talk about what you're going to talk about. Maybe even talk about the product and the offer and that stuff right up front. But if it's people that are not very aware about what's going on, you're going to have to hold off on that a little bit. You're going to be less direct about it. You're going to be indirect. So you're going to try to talk to them in a way that lets them know they can trust you, that you have something important to say, something interesting to say, something astonishing to say. And then they start to listen to you. And then once you have won them over to give you the time that it's going to take to give the rest of the message, then you can start to talk about the product and the offer and all those other things. We'll go through this lead types. So that most direct approach is that offer approach. That's when you can get right to the product. You're going to want to use this when you have people that are very aware, very close to the family of the product that you have, that relationship that you have a connection to, or that have some kind of connection to the solution that you offer that's strong enough that they're already ready to hear the particulars of the deal. The offer is great for using for that. And also remember, we talked about invitations. Those are a kind of offer that are really good for these membership clubs. You invite somebody to be part of a special circle. People like to be included in things. So if you've got that kind of situation, you might consider an offer lead. If you've got a really big promise that you can telegraph to that person's mind right there in the headline, and they're ready for solutions, they're aware of the problem that they have, and you don't need to agitate the problem because it's present for them, but they're out there looking for answers, you can just state that big promise out there. Remember we said about the unique selling proposition. That's that idea that makes your product do something for somebody in a way that's better than the way somebody else does it, or different from what they're used to. So, and in a way that's relevant to them. So figure out what that USP is, and then see how you can turn that into a big promise. And it's worth thinking about the promise lead, no matter which other kind of lead you're going to do, because at some point you're going to have to make that big promise. You're going to have to make that point about how it stands out, that USP, about what it can do for somebody else that's different from what they've seen before. You might have somebody who's so caught up in the problem that they have that you want to try the problem solution lead that we talked about. Then you've got the key there is that you want to identify for that person. You understand their pain. You feel what it's like to be like them, and you figured out a solution. So remember, the thing to remember in that is it's okay to start out negative, because that's where that prospect is. They have a negative position where they reside right now, and they want to be talked to there. They want to know that they've been heard, and then you can introduce the solution. And in this case, in all the leads, but in this case, one of the places where it's very important to prove that you're somebody credible, that there's a reason you understand that pain. Maybe it's because you felt it yourself. Maybe it's because you're an expert in the field and you help others who have had that problem. Maybe it's because you helped develop the solution, but you need to be credible and prove that you understand what that problem is. You might be in a situation where you have a special kind of secret or a system for doing something. Maybe it's a system for growing a beautiful garden that nobody else has. Maybe it's a system for investing that nobody else has perfected in a certain kind of sector and getting better profits. Or maybe it's something else like that. Or maybe it's little secrets about things that people don't know, things that have been kept from them, things that are misunderstandings that are out there in the public. You might want to go to a secret and system lead because that person, you have that secret and you know that it's got this relevant high curiosity level and that people would be interested just to hear that secret. This is something you use when you're not quite sure whether the person's aware of the problem that they have or aware of the solutions that are out there, but we know that people respond to secrets, so they're more on this unaware side of the spectrum. You might need to do something to jar those people awake. You might need to make a big statement that makes them react and stirs up intrigue. That's when you might want to go to a declaration lead. So you make a big statement like this, read this or die. That person's going to react to that. Just remember that when you do that, you're going to need to imply some kind of promise, some kind of hope, or some kind of thing that they can do that's a reaction to this big thing that's coming or developing or changing. And you're also going to need to prove that you have a reason why you believe that this is going to be an outcome, and it has to be real. And in order to make that happen, you have to root it in the things that are going on right now, that they already understand to be true. That will help them extrapolate out and see that maybe the thing that you're claiming is possible and that there has to be a response. That's what's going to get them to go into that thing and look for the solution that you're going to offer. And finally, if you have people that are very unaware out on the other end of the fringes, or you could even say in any other situation as a default position, if you're not sure what else to do, you have a good promise, you have a good secret to tell, you have a situation where there's a problem that was solved, or a big thing that's about to happen in the future, try and tell a story. Find a person that could be at the center of that thing and use that story as a container for that message to deliver that to the person that you are trying to address. Finding a story is as valuable as finding a promise or a solution. Find a story that's connected to what you do, and that will make it much easier to transport that image into somebody's mind. So here we can see this laid out if you look at it on the awareness spectrum, where we're most aware, moving to least aware. This is roughly where they land. The offer leads, the promise leads, the problem solution leads, they tend to be for more aware people. They also tend to be more direct. That means that they mention the product a lot earlier in the promotion. And the more direct they are, the earlier they probably mention that product because it's safe to do so. You've already won trust. Here, you're more indirect because they're unaware. They're not sure where they are. They're not sure who you are. They're not even sure what's going to happen next. They have a vague sense that you need to help them put to words. And secrets and declarations and stories can be a way to address them because they have this appeal that is hard to resist for everybody. So we're not sure what to tell them, but we want to hear secrets. Bold things jar us awake, and stories. We all just like stories. Do they always land on this scale? No, there's not a hard rule. There's one thing about selling stuff in the way that we write copy. We know that testing is everything. So you may find that some of these things will work over here, some of these things might work over here. If you have an amazing offer, it might work for unaware people. If you have an amazing story, it might work perfectly well for aware people. These things might move around, but generally, this is where they fall. So you have to think about those things. You have to think about the audience and where they are. You have to think about what it is you have to sell, what their awareness level is. So just look at some of those questions that you might ask yourself to help choose which lead that you're going to use. Ask yourself, what is the problem that is keeping that person awake at night? What's the emotion that they're feeling? Where are they emotionally? That might tell you what kind of lead you might decide to use a problem solution lead for that, or you might use some kind of bold declaration that taps into that same emotion. How aware are your readers of all these things, the problems and solutions? How plugged into who you are? Are they the people that sit outside the Apple store waiting for the next product to come out? Or are these people that don't know that this thing really exists, and they may need to find something connected to what they do know, the experiences that they do have, and you may need to bridge that gap with the things that's brand new to them. Okay, So is there a big, unique solution that you can offer? Is there some big promise you can make? Again, you're going to have to figure out what that promise is for all products, but if you come up with an especially big one, that might tell you need a promise lead. Is there a secret or a system or a story that's worth telling? So you got to dig in and you got to find out what's the backstory on this thing. What's the little detail that makes this thing worth so much more than anything else that's out there? Is there some kind of process or something that you help people to solve, that you help people to follow in a new way that's shorter, better, more efficient? Okay, so is there anything in the news that's shocking, that is something that they want to find out about or that they don't know is about to happen? You might go with a declaration lead. What's the story that nobody else is telling? Again, this is where you want to dig in and you want to find out what's the backstory on this? What's happening for people? What's testimonials are there? What's the founder's story? Or is there a story about the product, the solution that you have that nobody's telling? What is it that makes it unique? And what are the specifics of your offer? Go down to the offer. Look to see if there's a time deadline. Look to see if there's a limit on the amount that you can sell, or if it's some rare piece. Look if there's something you can do with the price, or the way it's delivered, or the guarantee that you offer. If one of those things is very strong, you might be able to move that right up to the front, mention it right away, put it right in your headline, and that might be enough. If it hits people who are aware of what you're doing, they might be happy to hear just to get right to the point and get started. So now how do you get started? Once you've answered these questions, try to put together at least samples of the lead type that you are going to target, and then follow the formula. Make sure you just do what it is that we talked about doing here. Keep it simple. Try and focus on that power of one, and just make it happen as it's laid out. You want to either make that big promise, and then you want to prove that you can deliver the promise, or maybe you have a problem solution thing. You want to remember that if this, then that type of formula. Go back and review the presentations if you need to figure out what that formula is. But the simpler, the more closely you keep to it, the better. And try and keep a swipe file for all 6 of the lead types, including the ones that are in this program, and then others that you might find coming into your inbox and in your mailbox. Now again, you might not find them fit perfectly into what it is that we've talked about today. Some of them are going to have overlapping types. Some of them are going to be a mix of one or the other, or even a third. But see if you can narrow it down to like what's the one that stands out as most prominent, and then try and figure out how that worked with the thing that you are trying to sell or that somebody's trying to sell. And then one of the most important things is to make sure that you get out there and you actually try and do it. Jump in and start writing. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much for giving us your time with these sessions, and we hope that they are helpful. You want to check out the supplemental materials that are on this page. There are some different things that you'll find there, some of them directly connected to the stuff we talk about, and some of it's just going to be useful for you. So you'll find links to those to download from here. Anytime you need a refresher, be sure you can go back and review these videos. You can see what anytime that you might be writing, say, a promise lead or an offer lead, go back and look at it was we talked about. It might give you ideas, and it won't take more than just a few minutes to listen to it. And then you want to go along and be sure to check out some of the other programs that are in our online category. We're adding stuff all the time. There's a lot of interesting stuff that is going to be helpful to you. And also, please, if we could ask, if you enjoyed this, please leave a nice review on the page, or say whatever it is that you want to tell that you think would be helpful for us to make sure that we can deliver good programs in the future. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much, and good luck.